Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be doing a special selection today, and that is where one of you guys tell me exactly what you want me to check out, and I do it. Today's special selection comes at us from Jeremy Mossad Shafiq. I probably pronounced that poorly, and I apologize. They request Alkaloid, Rise of the Cephalopods. It's a proggy tech death band, which members are known for being awesome musicians in bands such as Obscura, Necrophagist, etc. The music is very interesting to me in its composition because it is made of several movements. Hope you enjoy. Alright, I'm always down for proggy music. Tech death is it's a genre I'm not typically too keen on, but we'll give it a shot, as always. See if there's anything in here that I can find some enjoyment out of, as well as see what they're doing interestingly. So let's dig into this. Alkaloid's Rise of the Cephalopods. Yeah, so we're in like a 10-8 right now. Could be written as a 5-4. Ooh, that and of 5. Moved back to 4-4 here.
Beneath the sunken deeps, frigid waters tip.
Really moody, building a great atmosphere. Not even just with the music, but with the vocal delivery as well. There's also this real disjointed feeling in the rhythm, even though it is 4-4. They're emphasizing odd beats, and it gives it this uncanny feeling to the music. Yeah, so they're emphasizing 1, the end of 2, and the end of 4. Very interesting. Really cool harmony work on both of the stringed instruments there. Doing those 8th notes. Yeah, so we're still doing that 4-4 thing, but we're emphasizing even different odd beats as well. Still giving it an unnatural feeling. Bit of a tempo shift there. Yeah, once again, we're emphasizing 1 and 4, it feels like here, which makes it feel like 4 is a new downbeat, and we're doing groups of 3. Sort of like a 3 and then a 5. Still 4/4 though. That 8th note movement in the guitar though, it shifts keys on the and of 2 though, once again getting that and of 2 accenting. Oh yeah. This is some groove that's been missing, for me anyways. Catchy hook too. I don't expect to say that too often, especially for tech death, but yeah, great hook. The duet was panned and the solo is center. I really like that. Yeah, and they played off of each other very well. Oh, that bass run coming into this though. Really interesting rhythmic elements going on here. That tone with how short the notes are, it has a very digital feel to it. Not like digital music, but just like the auditory sound of computers, digitalness. I love the way this all shifts around and the way that they're progressing from one section to the next. Other than that harsh stop right there, we've had a very fluid evolution of that last part. Interesting. I have no idea what time signature that was in. Alright, we're in a 7/4 right now. I think that was like a 17/16. That was weird. Or maybe, oh, 9/8 actually, I think. Might have been. I don't know. It was definitely just a hair more than a 4/4 bar, though. I love how they're playful with this, where sometimes they'll go technical in the rhythmic aspect and stay technical, and then other times they'll get technical in the rhythmic aspect but introduce groove as well. And they really bounce between these two ideas often. Yeah, really interesting widening there. Once again, we have a duet in the vocals in a sense as a doubling of it. And it's panned just like the guitar solo was. Dude, the drumming has just been insane this whole song. Haven't really had a chance to bring it up, but yeah. Back to a 7. We're back to an 8. These guys are all over the place with their time signature. I really think that's the second time that bass lick has been, bass alone in silence has been used to transition us into a new idea. Dude, that speed is just ridiculous. The bass kicks are tremolo picking. Now we're in 4/4, but it feels like we're doing like a 7 and a 9, which is going to even out to 16, which is 4/4. Yeah, real interesting the way they're playing around with meter. A lot of storytelling at the beginning of this solo. Beautiful mixing right here. very Megadeth-y. Maybe it's just that guitar run, but yeah, I get Megadeth vibes there. Like Megadeth meets Deathlock. I'm actually a real big fan of this guitar tone that they use for the solos. Ooh. Yes. Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, they both started on the same length, and then halfway through they split and did their own things. Yeah, great. Starts as a duet, turns into counterpoint. Love it. Yeah, really cool guitar work going on here. Usually, like right here, they're lined up and doing the same thing. But that last section, they both had their own runs, and that was real cool. There's still 2 more minutes. Very cool to hear this section done cleanly. Lots of tension between the chord progression and that main melody line.
Winged ammonites from the dawn of time, launch ships of ice to rise up high. Primeval aliens in their prime to conquer worlds beyond the sky.
I really love the way they write melodies, even though it's such a small part of their songs. Yeah, so that's sorry. Can't say that that's exactly what I was expecting. Not by a long shot. Not not with death being in the title of the genre, but a welcome surprise indeed. Some really cool things going on there. I mentioned at the end that I really love their melody writing, even though it's not what I would consider their strong suit, their core writing style. They they have this really beautiful way of injecting melodic lines to break up some of the harshness and overwhelming elements of the song. And I just think it's so expertly done. It's always right at the perfect time. Um, I do think that it weighs a little closer to the end. We really don't get many solos in the first 40% of the song, 50% of the song. Some of that I can attribute to the beginning being so tense but not oppressive. We use a lot of uh, clean vocals, even if they are harsher. It's more like a low rumble rather than a full on growl. The instruments aren't distorted yet. It's more of a melodic atmosphere. But once we really get into that metal stuff, and we start bringing the weight and oppression of the speed of the music and the weight of the tones and all that, they really do a good job of breaking some of that up with more melodic writing, which tends to be from the guitars. And I just really appreciate the timing that they seem to have with those. Um, so yeah, this is a lengthy song. As usual with these, they're going to be, my analysis is going to be a little bit more surface read than really in depth, since there is a lot of song to remember and a lot of song to talk about. So, unlike a 3 minute song, which is going to stay fresh in my mind for the entire analysis period, I've already kind of forgotten some of the details from the beginning of the song. So, let's dive into this and explore some of the really interesting things going on here. First of all, we have the overall song structure. As who was this? Yes, as Jeremy, I apologize on that pronunciation. Said it's a song made up of several movements, and they're not incorrect. The song does even have very specific breakpoints, much like a classical song broken up into movements would. Clear endings and beginnings of movements. They're very present in here as well. There's also stark contrast in atmosphere between the movements as well. We look at the beginning, and there's tension for sure, but it's more about uh, foreshadowing dread or foreshadowing danger. There's tension in it, but it's not here yet. We have somebody speaking about things, and it's a bit of a gruff voice, but I would not say that it is overwhelmingly aggressive. We have these interesting acoustic, not acoustic, but clean guitar and bass lines going on. The drums are they're present. They're not doing anything crazy yet. And we move from that into a more melodic oriented metal song. Um, there's even a really catchy hook that appears in this section. Some of the guitar writing is not only just exercising that metal aggressiveness, the heaviness that metal tends to bring with it, but also shows some of the beauty of the instrument with the melody lines that it plays. The next section, though, is when we get into, I guess, more of the tech death stuff, where we move into the wall of sound, constant playing, ridiculously fast tremolo picking and double bass kicks, really about putting as many attacks into a beat or into a bar as possible. We have two movements Or maybe it's one very lengthy movement that jumps back and forth between the hyper aggressive and then more of a melodic aspect, then back to the hyper aggressive, and then we finish off with something very reminiscent of the beginning. And in this we have a very clear bell curve of rising action. We start out small, we keep going up. This is the melodic metal. Then we get into the tech death stuff, and then we come back down. There's a little peak back up, but then we finish out at the bottom again. It is a perfectly constructed bell curve for rising action and keeping the audience engaged. It actually follows how stories are written, stories, books, and movies. So it's really interesting to see the dynamics of the song following that sort of pattern. I think it's a perfect way to do this, especially since the song sounds theatric. The beginning starts with what seems to be, like I said, foreshadowing. It has some dread and tension baked in, but it's not present yet. I don't know what the vocals are saying, but the music's telling me that things are going to get hairy. They're not here yet, but things are going to change. There's going to be some 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 something to fear coming up in the future. And then we have I did pick up the words, rise of the cephalopod, something about an ancient alien race, rising out of the ocean. Um, so I assume that there is this, this attack, this rise, this working on world domination of these creatures in the sea. I don't know what the end means. I'm really interested in checking out the lyrics on this song because it does seem to follow a sort of cinematic approach with a bit of a story to it, and I'm very intrigued by that. Um, so, but the music itself is already lending itself to a cinematic idea and following a rising tension bell curve that we typically attribute to story writing. So, I mean, it has a lot of really good foundational work here. Now, on the musical level, we get into some more technical stuff. They are technical death metal. So we assume, or at least I assume, I'd be going in and there would be a lot of technical elements to it. And yes, all over the place. Their bread and butter is time signatures, though. Their meters are interesting. Well, let me. The pulse of their song, the groove, I guess you could say, is interesting. A lot of the time, they are working within 4/4 or something adjacent to 4/4, but they do so in odd patterns. Usually in 4/4, you would emphasize 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. It is repeatable. It works the same way in every bar. If you emphasize 1 and 3, every other beat you do 1 and 3. 1 or 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're always going to hit the 1 and the 3. It's not disjointed, it's even, it's every other beat, and it's replicable across bars. They stuck with the idea of replicating it across bars for the most part, but really went for odd ones. Instead of 1 and 3, we ended up getting 1, the and of 2, and then sometimes 4, sometimes the and of 4, and that's what made up a lot of the beginning, a lot of the opening elements. And it feels very disjointed. It feels like it's always coming in just a hair too early, and it really makes me feel like we are in a shorter bar length, maybe like 7/8 or 3/4. And it's just really interesting how I know my brain is like, dude, we figured this out. It's in 4/4. They're just jumping the gun a little bit. But every time it comes up, it feels like a hiccup. It feels like I'm being tripped up. It's really interesting how they're doing that throughout the entire opening, and I wonder if there's anything in the lyrics that lines up with that. Like I said, the opening is very much, to me, about foreshadowing danger. Um, so it seems to be in opposition to this feeling of rising tension, of showing what's going to happen in the future, or maybe warning about it, and then having the music be sort of disjointed. But I'm interested if there's anything in the lyrics that might line up with that, because um, something tells me it's just technical for technical sake. There's a lot of technical bands out there that do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. I tend to like a lot of synergy between my lyrical themes and my musical ones. But I understand not a lot of bands tend to go that route, um, and that's fine. That's fine. Um, but we move around a lot between this 4/4 and 7. The 7 pulse shows up so often, and it makes me wonder, why is 7 so prominent in this song? And I really don't have an answer for that. But I don't know. It intrigues me. 7 pops up. A lot of the song is in 4. A lot of it. A really disjointed or oddly pulsed 4, but it's in 4 nonetheless. The 7 pops up so often, and it just, I don't know. That's a question I would love to ask them. If it's just because it's odd, it's one less than, if we were 4/4 is equivalent to 8/8. So, what if we just take one away from that? 7/8. Uh, just a little bit more disjointed because it's one shy of what we're expecting. But something else that popped up, there's one section. Oh, what was it? It was like just a hair longer than 4/4. And I think it was either 17/16 or 9/8. But I think 9/8 would be too long. I think it is 17/16. It was just such a weird one, and it came out of nowhere. It didn't last very long. Speaking of not lasting very long, some of these time signature changes were for a single repetition, 4 bars, and then we would go back. Like, I remember one specific section. We had 4 bars of 7, and we went back to 4. And I was just like, why? That's interesting. And I think that's how I felt about the whole song regarding the meter. Is why? Huh. Well, it's interesting. And maybe that's why all of it's done. Maybe none of the time signature has anything to do with the music itself. Maybe it's just because the band was, noodling around with a riff to continue the song, and hey, this riff isn't in 4/4. It's a 7. So that's what we're going to write for this section. And then maybe they couldn't figure out where to go with that, so they just went back to what they already had, and they just used it as like a 4-minute or a 4-bar palette cleanse before moving back to the 8. Just really interesting situations of how the time signatures changed, when it's changed, and for how long. It's really all over the place. It almost seems random in some sections, but it's always keeping me on my toes at least. So I can't say anything bad about that. I've spoken in the past about how much I love novelty. Novelty is, I think it's fantastic for first listens, even for second and thirds. I mean, once you start knowing the song, you listen to it, a dozen times or whatever, the novelty is going to wear off. Whether that novelty is tempo changes or meter changes or wild shifts in melody, whatever. Anything that you're not going to expect is going to be a novel aspect, and it's just perfect for a first listen. I love it here. It keeps my brain engaged with the song. So I think those are definitely two of the big things for me about the band, is their playfulness with meter and the way they structured the song. Now, another big aspect of the song that really stands out to me is the way that the song continues to work with contrast. And it ties in a little bit with the song composition, the song structure. But I mentioned that there's always this rising tension. The song is always getting heavier and more aggressive before coming back down the hill and removing the speed, removing the aggression, removing the weight. And I think they just do a fantastic job of retaining especially in the middle of the song, very similar sounds. They don't really move outside of their comfort zone as far as chords picked or even chord colors and characteristics. Even melody lines or solos are also very similar in execution, even though they're different solos, 100%. And once you've listened to the song a few times, you would probably even be able to tell which solos are which based on what they were playing, the notes themselves. But they all have a very similar sound to them, a sonic identity. And the song as a whole pretty much does too, aside from the beginning and the outro, kind of bookending the metal section in the middle. But that entire metal section really does sound very similar, at least, like I mentioned, in the notes and the chords and the harmonies and stuff like that. But they really play around with a lot of the textural things that metal is known for utilizing to create diversity between their sections, and that's mostly speed and tone. And, well, I guess aggression a little bit too, but it's not really so much about the notes. Like I said, the notes for the most part are very similar throughout the song, but it's how they're played and what atmosphere is being played with them, what tones are being used to play these notes. And that's where a lot of their diversity comes from, and it provides a lot of contrast through the song. The weight doesn't really change, but the intensity of the weight changes. The notes don't really change, but the speed of the notes change. And that is sort of the textural atmospheric elements that they're working with. The second section of the song, the first heavy part, definitely brings some weight to the matter, but it does so with longer held out notes. Then the death section, when that comes in, and we get the rapid assault of these notes. And it completely changes the feel of the section. It's no longer an oppressive weight, it's an assault. It's no longer being pressed down, it's being pressed back. And it's fantastic how they can do that with such small changes. And I think they do a fantastic job, again, of telling the story through the music just by utilizing these elements of metal. Well, they're not elements of metal per se, but they're commonly used elements of metal. We'll put it that way. And like I said, they just do a fantastic job of knowing what their bread and butter is, knowing what they work, just being masters of their specific craft and knowing how and when and why to use the different things that they know very well. Not really going outside of their boundaries too much, but really utilizing what they can in masterful ways. And that's one thing that really keeps this song, brings it a notch up above other stuff I've listened to, is how they utilize their smaller tool set. Just they utilize it like a master. They know exactly when to employ each tool and how and what the effect is going to be and how that effect is going to amplify the story of the song rather than interfere with it. And I think that's my big takeaway here. There's some really cool things going on. Oh, let me talk about the solos real quick though, because the solos were interesting. The very first solo I think was the duet, and I loved how it was. I didn't know at the moment. It was a bit of foreshadowing, but it was an introduction into the transition we were going into. We were right then in the more melodic metal section, right before we were moving into the tech death stuff. And we had the duet, very beautiful, holding out these notes, creating these nice dyads. And then when they were finished, instead of the two guitars being panned, we had a single guitar centered. And that guitar went straight to Shred Town. Started tearing it up. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was the moment. I think it was only like half a minute later when we moved to the tech death. And that speed and intensity were put, front and center for the listener to be assaulted by. And I love that. I love how they use it in a storytelling method. I love how there's contrast there, how we get a little bit of more nuanced storytelling soloing before we see the raw musicianship shredding. Um, the only thing I do wish was that we saw more of that melodic soloing show up throughout the rest of the section. The other two or three solo sections were very heavy on musicianship, and it works within the tale of the story for sure. Like I said, the sections that they appear in are really heavily moving in that assault range. The constant attacks of the notes, not really holding anything out too long, so it fits within that range. But I don't personally, personally, on a casual listening, I don't find that kind of soloing to be too compelling. It's jaw dropping, of course, especially after we had heard so much of the traditional shred. Just really fast finger movements. Maybe there was a couple of sweep sections, but really it was all about staying within the same range, just playing quickly. But that final solo introduced some tapping, and that actually caught me off guard. I enjoyed that. That was a bit of that I forgot the word now. Novelty that I love, being caught off guard. I really assumed after four solos I knew exactly what kind of solo we were going to be getting into, and I really enjoyed that. There's a lot more playfulness and moving around note ranges, and yeah, so that was pretty cool. But still, it really delivered on that assault, that constant attacks, and like I said, it's jaw dropping. I love seeing people performing at the height of their craft, at the height of humanity, being humanly possible, playing at these speeds with that precision, especially at the point when there was a duet with this really ridiculously quick playing. I think it was actually some tremolo picking, a tremolo pick solo that ended up being a harmonized duet. And just the precision required for that to not sound muddy. It's just jaw dropping. I love listening to that. But as far as the storytelling, especially for a song that's so cinematic, I feel like it just takes me out of the moment, unfortunately. It'd be like if you have this really nicely written character drama, and then there's a 10 or 15 minute, 20 minute, fight scene, a gunfight or whatever with explosions, and you're like, yeah, in another situation it'd be really flashy, and I can appreciate the special effects, but it ruined the pacing of the character drama. And that's kind of what I feel here. Like there's a really awesome story here, and the solos fit within it in a sense, but I feel like there was something missing by not having a little bit more nuance to the solos. But like I said, that's just my personal bias. The solos do fit the song, but yeah. Anyways, I nailed everything. So that was the meter, the overall song structure, the guitar solos, and the contrast. Yeah, I think those are the big things that stood out to me. Just fantastic stuff. I'm probably gonna have to go back. I don't know if I'm gonna listen to the whole song, but I do need to check out the lyrics and possibly run some sections against the music to see how the vocals are delivered, because there are a couple of different vocal deliveries. We have the clean, we have the growls, we have the spoken word. Kind of see how all that lines up, because delivery is important. Much like how an electric guitar can be clean or overdriven or distorted, or any combination of these, actually, if you want to just get real playful with your tone. And that tone impacts how the listener views that instrument. The vocal delivery also impacts what the words mean and how they come across. So, yeah, I don't know. I might listen to this whole thing again with some lyrics pulled up. I'm very interested. I love the theatrical element of it. So I'd like to see it with the lyrical story intact alongside the musical one. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Alkaloid's Rise of the Cephalopods. Fantastic pick. Thank you very much. This is where you guys come in and hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not, anything that stuck out to you, and any sort of context that you might have for me regarding this song. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box. There's a really cool link in there called Linktree. It's a nice menu with everything related to the channel. If you'd like to check out my Twitter, or join the Discord community, follow me on, support the channel through Patreon, all those links are there. Above that, if you could like, subscribe, and ring the bell, I greatly appreciate it. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll be doing another post-punk song, followed up by probably another special selection. We'll get through these, I think, because we're at like 35 or 40 requests. I want to get through these so that I can get to people's requests, submissions in a timely manner, instead of saying, hey, thanks, I'll get to it in a few months. So I think we're going to burn through these for a couple weeks until we get caught up. And yeah, and then we got Friday. So make sure you stay tuned for all that. And as usual, no videos on Saturday or Sunday. It's a perfect catch-up day. I know 10 videos are a lot for 1 week, especially with lengthier ones like this one. That's going to run about 50 minutes. So that's what the weekends are for. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.